I hate the Nintendo Switch! I'm just kidding. I'm actually gonna go ahead and just neatly put it right there, because, it's very delicate. Hello and welcome to the topic of this video. As always, let's talk sheNEDigans. So today's video I thought would be a, kind of relatively fun video, and talking about video games, and hey, who doesn't want to talk about video games? Now, the Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch is arguably one of my favorite video game consoles in most recent years. I would almost put it at number one if it wasn't for the fact that I had other video game consoles that not only had an incredibly, fantastic library of video games, but also held a lot of nostalgic value to me. And that's the thing about the Nintendo Switch. I got the really big ones because, and to be completely fairness, I hate the tiny Joy-Cons, plus, hey, I need new ones because, Joy-Con drift sucks. But getting back on track, I do really love the Nintendo Switch for its portability, for, honestly, the convenience of the console, but most of all, I really love it for the amazing amount of ports that are coming over to the Switch, and I really think it's, honestly quite fascinating and really intriguing. Now, just recently, I bought a bunch of Nintendo Switch games from, the online store of GameStop. Now, I've read many reviews, articles, experiences, and a whole bunch of stuff on why you shouldn't, but the thing is that the GameStop had this incredible sale going on, and it was basically, if you buy 5 pre-owned games, you can get them for 50% off, the whole order, which for me is an opportunity I could not pass up, simply because, a lot of Nintendo Switch games, as a lot of you know, and this is probably one of the biggest gripes with Nintendo Switch, they can be a little bit on the expensive side, especially considering that a lot of the games that are on the Switch are even ported over to the Switch. Honestly, they should not be $40. Heck, they shouldn't be $30. $20 is honestly the range I would probably think for most of these games. Now, the thing is that it is relatively nice that a lot of the games I found were either around 25, 20, around that kind of price range. So I was practically able to get 5 Nintendo Switch games for the price of one brand new one, which is around $60.
Wow.
So I was honestly really excited that I was actually able to get a bunch of Switch games for the price of one. And then on top of that, I did also wind up buying a few Switch games from eBay as well. And although that experience, at least for me, is far less sketchy than buying them from GameStop, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about my experience of buying them from GameStop. And then after that, I wanted to kind of talk about the games I actually did buy and kind of give a first impression review of them. It's not a full-blown review, but basically just a little bit review, I guess. First impressions. This is basically the stack of games I wound up getting. As you can see, all of them except one, basically, they all came with their original cases, which I'm very, very happy about, because I'm someone who hates it, absolutely hates it, when they come in the GameStop case, because for some odd reason, someone decided to go ahead and throw away the original case. I just hate that, it frustrates me, and, whatever. It's something I have to deal with. I'll probably get a replacement case for it eventually. You totally bought this game from GameStop. Now, all the other games, they all came in really good condition, and I have to say, I might just be one of, the rare exceptions of, I wound up getting the games and they turned out fine. I did watch, some videos, and also on top of that, a few, read a few experiences where the games either came in incredibly damaged cases, or they, didn't even come with a case at all. And I'm not just talking about Switch games, I'm talking about, all kinds of games. And don't get me started on buying retro games from GameStop. Those are honestly most of the really bad experiences that I've actually been reading up on. Now, most of the games I bought, except for one, are all ports of really old games that came out many years ago. I know I could have gotten these games probably far cheaper anywhere else, or for another console, on Steam, literally anywhere but the Nintendo Switch. But the thing is that I really want to not only build up my Switch library, but I really wanted to basically experience a lot of these games on the Nintendo Switch. So the way I'm going to talk about these games, it's basically kind of going to be a little bit like a top 10, except not. None of these games are bad, by the way. They're all really good games, but basically it's going to be like, okay, I had this much enjoyment with this game. I thought this game was a little bit unique for coming over to the Switch, and just a whole bunch of other things. But basically that's kind of like the ranking I'm doing. It's not a top 10, like I said. I don't think any of these games are bad. I think they're all legitimately really good games. It's mainly just like my experience with them. And like I said, this is all first impressions. This isn't like full-blown review of all of these games because I haven't finished them. I've put a decent amount of hours into it, but not a lot, and some of them less than most. So let's get started! Now, the first game I want to talk about is the LEGO Harry Potter collection. Now, I love the LEGO video games. I love every single one of them, and even with their repetitive nature, I still really enjoy them, and even though every single LEGO game is basically relatively the same, you have this giant, huge cast of characters, you can build your own character depending on the game that you're playing, you can also build things through the level, solve puzzles, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So honestly, I think LEGO Harry Potter is one of the best LEGO tie-in movie video games. And the reason for that is because Harry Potter is drenched in mystery, solving mysteries. In a manner of speaking, there's actually some like puzzle solving, I guess you could argue, with some of the plots of Harry Potter. There's just a bunch of find this item in order to go ahead and do this thing or something like that. The thing I love most about the game is the fact that unlike a lot of the other LEGO games out there, this one has some intriguing mechanics when it comes to how you actually build things. You're actually using your magic to move things around, to place them, build them, and a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm talking manually, by the way. I'm not talking about, holding the circle button and then all of a sudden everything starts getting built up immediately. And that's the thing. I know there are some other video games I think started to adapt that particular mechanic with actually moving some of the LEGO pieces in order to build some things. And of course they also kept the hold button down and then thing will get built immediately as well. But the thing I just loved my experience in playing this. I didn't play it for too long. My only complaint, this goes with all the LEGO video games, they're practically all the same. It's basically a giant collect-a-thon, and that's fine. I love collect-a-thons. If you play one LEGO game, you played every single other LEGO video game that has ever come out. Now, obviously, some LEGO video games have a unique thing to them, but for the most part, this is pretty much your average normal experience of playing a LEGO video game, which is why I would say this one's kind of lower on the list. Not because it's bad. I really enjoyed my time with it. It's mainly just, it's another LEGO video game, basically. Now, the next game I want to talk about is Crash Team Racing. This is the one that came with the GameStop case. I'm just gonna keep you out of the video. You're ugly. Now, I really love Mario Kart, Diddy Kong Racing, and back in the day, I did play the original Crash Team Racing as well. And I love kart racers. They're a lot of fun. Now, Crash Team Racing, as soon as I started playing it, I felt this huge wave of nostalgia playing the game. Honestly, I really like the whole idea of having an adventure within a kart racer. And if there's one series that's sorely missing that, it's Mario Kart for some odd reason. I mean, I kind of get it. Mario Kart is more so just like, okay, pick up and play, pick up your kart, maybe win a few, like, the races with the single player and, unlock a few things and whatnot. But the thing that Diddy Kong Racing and Crash Team Racing got so right was the whole adventure mode. And it is a lot of fun to really just follow along, trying to beat this whole little adventure and unlocking all of these little things along the way, whether or not it's like customizing your kart, unlocking more characters, and, just a whole bunch of other stuff. But with Crash Team Racing, the possibilities are all endless, and that's the thing I love about it. And I would argue, this is probably my favorite kart racer of all time at this point. I mean, the nostalgic feelings of Diddy Kong Racing will always be there, and I'll probably love it a lot more in many regards when it comes to its presentation over Crash Team Racing. But Crash Team Racing is a lot of fun. The visuals are really outstanding. The amount of drivers that you can have is honestly really big. Although, I'm going to admit, a lot of the racers on the game are, well, I don't really know most of them. I mean, I'm sure they're all from, like, different eras of, Crash Bandicoot and stuff like that. But, yeah, most of them are kind of just dull and boring. At least Spyro is in it, finally. Now, the next game I want to talk about is Saints Row the Third, the full package. Now, this game came out in the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 era, and to be completely honest, it's really freaking hot in here. This game is a bit, well, it's interesting. Now, I played the fourth one, but I never played any of the previous ones, and I have to say, I actually like this one a lot more than the fourth Saints Row. Basically, it is a parody off of Grand Theft Auto. It has some of the elements of Grand Theft Auto, including some of the crude nature of it, but it's all over the top, it's ridiculous, and then on top of that, it's really a series that you really shouldn't take that seriously. There are some things which I think are questionable, but it does have a wide array of, honestly, really fun elements to it. It still has that feeling of playing a Grand Theft Auto game, but at the same time, it feels over the top, kooky, ridiculous, and I have to say, this is probably one of my favorite things about the game, and I'm sure this comes in, like, later Grand Theft Auto games, but I absolutely love the AI, because once you start, like, wreaking havoc or something like that, it's absolutely hilarious when basically the AI just starts going nuts. They'll run over people, they'll try their best to try and get away as fast as possible, until like all the police show up or whatever. It's really kind of funny, and I was just like, okay, wow, this is kind of intense. Now, one of the cool things I actually really like about Saints Row over Grand Theft Auto is the fact that you can really fully customize your character. You can make them practically any race, you can alter their voice, you can do a whole bunch of stuff. And of course, what did I do? I made my guy the biggest gothic stereotype you could possibly go with. Basically almost a full-on anarchist in like one kind of like outfit I kind of made for it, or just like I said, like a full-fledged goth. It's actually really entertaining, the stuff you can do with this game. On top of that, you can even give your character a zombie voice.
Saint's name used to mean something more than body spray and some ass-tasting energy drink.
Imagine playing the entire game while doing that. Now, we cut to the segment of this game where I like to call, I swear to God, this is not how I drive in real life.
Get your ass off my bike! They should never have fought the Saints!
Now, honestly, I think the port of this game came out pretty good. Now, I think it's better to probably play it on other consoles, especially like the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. But I have to say, for it being ported over to the Switch, I think it came out pretty good. The visuals can be a little bit, well, not that good, but overall, I still had a really fun experience. And the only other problem I had with it was just the fact that sometimes the game would like to glitch out in some areas. My biggest issue was when I was going over to try to start a new mission, sometimes it would actually freeze on the loading screen and I would not be able to get past that, and it was a little bit annoying because sometimes I didn't even save before going into that mission, so I had to like sometimes redo a whole bunch of missions. That's kind of my fault, but at the same time, the game freezing is not my fault. Neverwinter Nights. Now this is an old game. It came out in 2002. It was recently ported over to, well, the Switch, as well as the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and so on and so forth. Basically, the Enhanced Edition, it comes with all of the expansions and stuff that came with the old game and whatnot. So you're getting the full experience with this game. Is it good on the Switch, though? Well, it kind of depends. Now, the plot of the game is honestly kind of your stereotypical fantasy plot. Basically, you're this guy who's hired to try and go out into the world to try and find a cure for some mysterious illness that has befallen the entire world. Oh. But that is basically the plot. Now, there are expansions, there's other chapters and stuff like that as you continue throughout the game. But the thing I have to say that I loved most about this game was the amount of customization that you can kind of put into a character. Not really physical customization, that's honestly pretty limited. I mean, the game came out in 2002, but it's more so backstory. Now, a lot of it's all made up. This is all your imagination, but that's the thing I love about it. You can put so much imagination into your character of, like, who he is. Who does he worship? Does he have this interesting backstory that you want to give to him? Is he this particular race? Is he also a sub-race? And stuff like that. There's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do with this. So, what did I do? Well, I created a guy called Tony T-Rex, who is under the delusion that he was actually born a dinosaur, and he thinks that his race is actually a dinosaur, but in reality he's a half-elf, and his parents have basically considered that he's insane, so he basically goes off on an adventure to find his real dinosaur parents. And then stuff happens. But I do genuinely really like this game with the amount of customization that you can kind of put into personalizing your character, his personality and stuff like that. That's the stuff I really like. Now, the other customization, there's not really that much you can do with it. I mean, it's simply just doing like a little swap, you know, here and there with either the face, the clothing, or stuff like that. But I really love the amount of backstory and stuff that you can put into your character. Now, this doesn't really translate over into the main game, but I like to go ahead and make it think that I'm this weird guy who thinks he's a dinosaur and he's off to find his parents, but then all of a sudden his actual story was completely sideswiped by this illness that has befallen the land. Now, the biggest complaint I have about this game is mainly just the fact that it's a game you should play on the PC. There were a few times during a live stream that I was doing where I was trying to talk to one character, but no matter what I did, I would not be able to go ahead and focus on that particular character, and it was sometimes really frustrating because I wasn't able to leave the area until I talked to this character. So I actually got stuck at one point and wound up having to go back because I thought I missed something, when in reality, I just needed to talk to this one particular character, but it wouldn't focus on the character. Eventually, I did find out that there are certain button prompts and stuff you can do to highlight and select other characters, but I will say, I think this game was probably much better suited for PC than it was for consoles, so that's really my only complaint. So I still think it's a fun game. I just think it's better on the PC, probably. Baldurs Gate and Baldurs Gate 2 Enhanced Editions, made by the same people who made the Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition ports for like all the other consoles. This game, it's definitely, I would actually say I had a little bit more fun in some regards with this game than I did with Neverwinter Nights. And the reason for that is it feels a little easier to control compared to Neverwinter Nights, where Neverwinter Nights felt a little bit clunky in some areas. From my experience, it was pretty easy to control. Now, the thing is that this is basically one of the very first action RPG dungeon crawler kind of games, and it certainly feels like it. I don't mean that in the bad way. It's still a lot of fun, and from the earliest parts of the game that I was playing this and experiencing it, I did have a lot of fun. I actually really like the graphics to this game. They're not fantastic, they're not like jaw-dropping or anything like that, but I think they're very endearing and very, very charming in many regards. So obviously don't play this game for a graphical masterpiece or anything like that, or heck, even a technical masterpiece in that regard, but once again, very similar to Neverwinter Nights, I found this game enjoyable just for the amount of character customization that you can put into your character's background and whatnot. So, once again, I actually kind of tied this character into Tony T-Rex, where basically this character was an orphan. He found out that he had a brother named Tony, and his foster father told him that his brother went insane and left his real parents to find basically fake parents. So now my character is off to try and find Tony T-Rex because he wants to reunite with his brother and basically tell him, you're insane, you need help. And then stuff happens. I love putting like these weird like backstories and stuff like that. I find it really fun, endearing, and it adds character not only to, well, my own character, but into the imagination that you can actually put into these games. Once again, this backstory has absolutely no impact on the actual game, but I find it fun being able to do silly stuff like that. I also have to say, I think the amount of control in this game is probably a little bit easier than Neverwinter Nights. As I said, it's a little bit less glitchy, and you can actually, I feel like it's easier to actually highlight people, and I feel like compared to Neverwinter Nights, this game, I feel, was a little bit of an easier port to the Switch compared to Neverwinter Nights. Darksiders War Mastered Edition. Now, I have to say, I actually really love the idea and the story behind Darksiders. You basically play as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. In the first one, you play as War. In the second one, you play as Death. But it's really fun, and I think it's really cool that there's a game series where you actually can play as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. A funny story about this game. So, I was actually originally going to order this one as well as Darksiders 2. I actually really wanted Darksiders 2 over this one, not because I think this one's bad or anything like that, but I actually have played Darksiders 2 before, and I really liked it. And then on top of that, I mean, you get to play as Death, and my, internal gothy self, is overjoyed by the fact you can play as Death in a video game. So I thought, oh, that's really cool. I really want to try that game again on the Switch. And I was going to order it, but unfortunately, someone else got a hold of it, and then it was taken off the order, and I wasn't able to get it as part of the package of pre-owned games, all for 50% off, and that made me very sad. I really wanted Darksiders 2, man. But we're talking about Darksiders 1. So basically the story of Darksiders 1 is you are playing as War. You are framed for kickstarting the apocalypse, and basically heaven and hell are at war with each other, and they really, really hate you. Now, you figure that hell would probably like you for trying to kickstart the apocalypse, but there's a little bit of mystery surrounding the story in this game as you're trying to go through the story and you're trying to figure out, okay, who truly kickstarted the apocalypse? Who actually summoned you to come forth and start destroying the world? It's actually very interesting, and I kind of like that whole idea. Now, the game is a little bit of a mixture of linear gameplay and open world gameplay. What I mean by it's very linear but a little bit open world, it's very similar in style to Legend of Zelda and God of War. More God of War than Legend of Zelda, though. Basically, you go around hack and slashing demons, angels, and zombified humans. That's basically like the core gameplay. There's a lot of other really cool stuff to it as well, where you're trying to upgrade your weapons, your health, armor, so on and so forth. Very similar in style to God of War, but there are a few like little tidbits and feelings of Legend of Zelda within this game as well. Now, I have really enjoyed this game so far for how much I have played it. I haven't gotten super far, but I really have gotten far enough, and I have to say I really have enjoyed my experience so far. And heck, it has Mark Hamill in it!
I say bark, you bark. And if I have to kick you, you'd better not bare your teeth. Understand?
Now, these last 2 games, in ranking them, I felt it was a little bit hard, but originally I was actually trying to think of okay, which one of these do I enjoy more and blah blah blah, but I was kind of coming out on top with liking them equally, so I had to put in a ton of hours into these 2 games in particular to really get the feeling of where the flaws were and stuff like that. And I did come out with an eventual verdict on which one I liked the most out of these 2. Titan Quest! Now, this game is also a little bit old. It came out in 2006, and I have to say, well, I really love this game. It's so much fun. I am a sucker for ancient mythology, and the fact that you can go to ancient Greece ancient Egypt and even ancient China is actually really cool, and you can fight off a bunch of gods, titans, mythological monsters and stuff that are all surrounded in these different mythologies. You start off as a Greek, at least I think he's Greek. We start off in Greece, where basically we start fighting off a whole bunch of like mythological monsters that are attacking villages and stuff like that, and then eventually as you go through the game you find a whole bunch of side quests and a whole bunch of other stuff, and you continue on until eventually you can get to like other places and levels. Now I'm still in Greece at the moment. I haven't really moved past that point yet, but I did put in a lot of hours so far with this particular game, and I have to say I really enjoy it, but it does also have some problems. My two biggest gripes with this game are basically the fact that there's not really a lot of customization you can do with your character, and compared to like a lot of other dungeon crawlers or RPGs, you get two base characters. You can either choose a male or a female, and you can change the color of their tunic, which is yay, fantastic. I mean, obviously you can find equipment and stuff that you can apply to your character, and you can, like, you know, dress them in any way that you want, but in the long run you're probably going to just wind up choosing armor that is better suited to defense, strength as you're progressing through the game. When it came to that regard, I found it to be a little bit disappointing when it came to character customization, but I still had a lot of fun with it in that regard, you know, just like moving forward, you know, making my character stronger. And one of the things I really did love about this game is honestly the leveling up system. Now, there are several different classes, but the thing I love about it is that you can basically put all of your effort into basically becoming one particular class, or eventually you can basically become this hodgepodge of different classes. You can become a fire guy who can also summon the undead, or you can become someone who basically has mastered the dark arts of the undead but is also very friendly with nature and stuff like that. It's really, really cool in that regard. You can get like many different powers, and they're not like stuck with this one class. You can't just pick one class and then be over and done with it. You can actually pick several different classes and get like this unique amount of like powers and stuff from the different classes. It's really cool in that regard. My biggest complaint, though, about this game is not the presentation, it's not the acting, it's not the graphics, it's not the gameplay overall, is mainly the whole aspect of I really hate how much loot you can get in this game. There's not a lot of room for your equipment, so as you're like picking up like all this different armor sets, all of these like swords, medicine and stuff like that, your inventory gets full very, very fast, and I don't know if there's necessarily a way to expand your inventory just yet. But so far, I haven't found anything with that, and I hope that that does change, because I really don't like the inventory limit in this game. It's a really big problem. You use these teleportation things, so that way you can teleport to, like, any village that has a teleportation device in it. Some of the villages have merchants that you can go to and buy and sell items to, and basically, I find myself going to the merchant constantly. It's really annoying, because I feel like it really breaks up the game, and this is probably more so a me problem than an actual, well, person who plays this game problem. I'm the kind of guy who loves to collect all the loot, sell it, and, you know, be able to make a profit off of it, so that way when I run into another merchant and I find, oh, he has this a really cool equipment that I can get, then, you know, of course I have all the money for it. But the thing is that with games like Diablo 3, obviously many years later, it's very easy to, one, collect gold, but also it's very easy to basically collect like all of these items and whatnot and keep getting stronger, so that way you're able to hold more items. In this game, it's very limited to how many items you can hold. And it's very, very frustrating how you have to keep going back and forth to the merchant just to go ahead and sell stuff. I still really enjoyed this game, by the way. I don't hate it. I just find that one small element about the game very frustrating. And now to talk about arguably one of my favorite games on the Nintendo Switch. Dragon's Dogma: Dark Arisen. Okay, it might not necessarily be the best game on the Switch. It's not. I'm actually really sad I have never played this game before it came out on the Nintendo Switch. Dragon's Dogma, it was actually made by Capcom, and it was basically their answer in trying to create a Western RPG-styled game. You know, something that was actually very similar in style to Skyrim, Oblivion. Skyrim, Oblivion, but basically those kinds of games. And although it's drastically different from Skyrim or Oblivion, this is, I would argue, a relatively unique RPG. The story is, unfortunately, rather basic. The story is of this evil dragon who's basically destined to bring about the apocalypse. He attacks your fishing village, and you, the stupid idiot that you are, decide to pick up a rusty sword and go and attack this thing, and he wipes you out in one hit. He then rips your heart out, eats it, and then somehow you're still alive. That's not how life works. Any manner of speaking, you have kind of become one with the dragon. Think of Dragonheart in that respect. And now you are this cursed being who is destined to eventually take on the dragon. That's basically the plot. It's really interesting, to say the least. It's not really that in-depth, special, or anything like that, especially in comparison to a lot of other Western-styled RPGs. But I think the thing that really gets me is a mixture of a lot of things. One, it's the open world. I really actually like traversing around this open world. I love it when sometimes a random monster will attack me. I love it when like a horde of goblins are just like standing around doing nothing, and then all of a sudden one will spot you, alert a whole bunch of other goblins, and they'll come and attack you. I really love how, I guess, alive this world seems. Also, the combat of Dragon's Dogma is eerily similar to another gaming franchise of Capcom's, and that's Monster Hunter. Now, I love Monster Hunter, especially, well, particularly Monster Hunter World. I, fell heavily in love with this game, so the combat and the fact that it feels very similar to, well, the fact that it feels similar to Dragon's Dogma is actually, well, one of the things that really, drew me to it in that regard. There are a ton of monsters in this game, and you can climb all over them, attack their weak points. You can also cut off some of their limbs, tails, wings, or whatever. You can cling onto them so that way they lose balance and fall over. It's really, really cool and unique, and I have to say that it feels real. I really like the combat and how, I guess in a manner of speaking, realistic, minus the magic, how it feels in that regard. It just feels so organic compared to so many RPGs out there where it's, okay, I have a sword, I have a shield, I have some magic, whack, 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 the person's dead. This game, it feels a little bit better. The other thing I absolutely adore about this game, it's the amount of character customization that you can put into your character. Now, I really love the amount of stuff that you can do. Now, your character is basically a human, but you can make them look unique. You can change the color of their skin so that it's like green, like a goblin, or red, or like a very darkish blue, and then give them pointy ears, and then make them look like a dark elf, which is actually kind of my go-to thing with a lot of RPGs. I love dark elves, and so being able to kind of do that with this particular character, I was like, yeah, this is cool. This is my actual character. Now, I love the amount of stuff I've been able to do with my own character. You know, I gave him the pointy ears, I gave him like the darkish blue skin. I was able to go ahead and find a lot of these really cool and unique pieces of outfits and stuff like that to really make my own unique character, and that's something I really enjoyed. And being able to see him in cutscenes, interacting with characters, and being able to do stuff, I really felt like I was putting basically my creation into the game. One of the other things I really liked about this game are your companions. Now, there aren't really story-tailored companions in this game compared to, let's go ahead and say something like Mass Effect, where you come across a group of characters throughout your journey, and then they are heavily tailored towards the story, towards you, and stuff like that. But your companion characters in this game are called pawns. They basically have no personality, and there's actually a plot reason for them not having any personality. Basically, they're just kind of like these, they're not soulless, but they're basically like, I guess just personality-less kind of human beings that don't have a drive or anything like that. Their main sole purpose is to serve the Arisen, and to help him out on his journey to destroy the dragon. And I have to say, I think that's kind of cool. You can actually create your own pawn, and then you can basically find a whole bunch of different pawns throughout the game, as well as being able to select pawns from other players who have also played this game. And they have themselves also created. So overall, I've been finding a lot of these things incredibly fun and unique about Dragon's Dogma, and this is slowly becoming my favorite RPG of all time. There's a lot of cool, unique monsters to fight that are, heavily inspired by, Western fairy tales and stories and stuff like that. But there's also a lot of other, kind of cool side quests and an interesting cult-like thing, which looks like it's heavily inspired from Resident Evil 4.
Come to join our flock, Arisen.
I didn't know I was playing Resident Medieval. Capcom, does every game you have to make have to have zombies in it? That being aside, which is kind of funny, I do absolutely love Dragon's Dogma. And as I said, I'm kind of sad I didn't play this when it originally came out, but I am very happy that it was re-released, especially onto the Nintendo Switch. And this just really goes to show why I really heavily love the Nintendo Switch. It just has so many cool, unique things about it. And I love, like I said, I love the portability, I love being able to take it everywhere with me, and I love playing it on the television as well. But the thing I love most about it is just the unique amount of games that are being ported over to the Nintendo Switch. And the fact that games of the past are kind of getting brought back to life because of the Nintendo Switch. This console in particular is giving old games new life. And that's something I really appreciate. I wouldn't have come across or probably even given Neverwinter Nights a second thought, or any of the other games, or Dragon's Dogma. I wouldn't have given these games a second thought, really, if they weren't put onto the Nintendo Switch, which I think is maybe a little bit shallow. I don't really know about, those particular games, but I'm really happy that they were brought over to the Nintendo Switch. I love playing it on them, and I've been enjoying live streaming some of them recently. It's been so much fun, and I can't wait to see what other games eventually come down the road on the Nintendo Switch. Yeah, that's basically my thoughts on these games, and on top of that, my experience of getting them from GameStop. Definitely give GameStop Online a chance. I mean, if you got Switch games that were either out of the case or basically, you get the stupid GameStop case or whatever, I can understand being a little bit frustrated about that if you're a collector in particular, like I am. But honestly, I think it's safe enough to give GameStop a chance, especially since there are so many good deals that usually do tend to show up on the website in particular. That's basically it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, hit the like button, join us on social media, and look at our Patreon, which is all in the not the comment section. I keep saying that. In the description below. Make sure you go ahead and take a look into all that fun stuff. And that's basically it. You guys take care, God bless, and most importantly, stay safe.